We're going to speak today about medical marriages. And the reason for that is, if you don't know, and most of you in this room do, there's a major stress factor going on with America today and around the world, and not just in medicine, but it's in couples. And so we're trying to decide if we can help give you some pointers on your medical marriage. I am not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I'm a family physician. I have been in private practice over 30 years. I have been married to a physician over 33 years. I'm the mother of 2 children, a son 30 and a daughter 28, and I worked full-time practice until about 3 years ago when I didn't do enough physical activity and I had to kind of go half days because of my legs and my weight. So I have been an active physician and a spouse. And so when I speak with you today, part of this is going to be based on the excellent research that has been done with the medical marriage by the Sotils. And some of the Alliance people know that name because they have worked over 20 years on collecting data from medical couples so they could kind of categorize us and tell us what our good and bad points are. The other part of this lecture is just common sense and walking the walk. So that's where we are today. The goals of this lecture you see before you. We want to try to identify some of the stresses that go in a medical marriage, to understand some of these stresses, to seek management, and to see how we can live with them and when. Is this sound okay? It seems like it's coming and going. Okay. First thing. So you married a doctor. Another common phrase, why are you whining? You married a doctor. You know, how many people in this room have heard this over and over? This is a perception the public has. We married a doctor, so this is the fairy tale dream come true. But as many of you, or all of you in this room know, the dream is not always a fairy tale. There's lots of long hours, lots of fatigue, lonely times, spouse being absent, missed meals, missed appointments, missed family events, and a lot of loneliness. So, you know, it is a fairy tale, it is a dream come true, but it also has a little bit of a walk that you have to get accustomed to. Here are some basic facts that I pulled together for you, just so you understand a little bit about the medical training that goes into making a physician. 40% of female and 27% of male medical students and residents have major anxiety or depression. Residents are 5.5 times more likely to use substance, and drug dependency in physicians is 30 to 100 times greater than the general population. You also see below the health risk that is related. So this topic you may kind of think is not important, but it is important because we have to take care of America. We have to take care of ourselves. Now, a lot of this goes back to our medical school training, and those of you in the room who are physicians, you never forget that. The medical school training and the residency, it teaches us how to juggle stress overload and developing coping mechanisms. These mechanisms stay with us the rest of our lives. We can try and we can try to change, but some core in our being stays there. They spent hours on us in medical school trying to desensitize us. They had us do all kinds of shock therapy for visualizing with blood and trauma and death and everything. And they drilled it over and over and over. And one of the main things doctors walked away with was, it doesn't matter about you or your health. The only important thing is medicine and taking care of the patient. You know, and that's where you're working from, is the medical school training. They took you how to do the left-hand side and make you into what we call kind of a super figure. So when you became a couple, physicians and their spouses, they knew that Doctors tend to cope with stress instead of confronting it. We've been trained to develop extensive coping skills, and actually physicians tend to normalize the abnormal. And that has been said that physicians, no matter how stressed they are, they go numb and press on. So we're trying to see if maybe we can help that with some stress management. We want to create a more nurturing arena in our lives, and that is spent working on 3 areas: where you spend your time, how you treat yourself, and the important people in your life. It has been said that many physicians develop a resilience. They see nothing wrong with their lives, but they feel like they're not fulfilled, they're not happy. They start to long for a different life. This leads to what they call a postponement or a wait till later. How many couples, when they started, they decided, well, we'll wait till the kids grow up and we'll do this, or we'll wait till the practice is better and we'll do that, or we'll wait till we retire and we'll do this. And then when they get there, they suddenly find out the time is gone. The couples can grow apart while they're getting into that area because they're going in 2 different directions by postponing. And then when they find out that they're later able to enjoy each other, they're suddenly 2 different people and they don't know the other person. So what is your life? Think about it. When you married your spouse, the physician, you expected some things. Most of us expected that our physician spouse was going to have a lot of stress from the pain, suffering, and death toll, the starting the practice, the lawsuits, the grueling hours, you know. But we didn't expect maybe all of this. And these stresses here can lead to the physician trying to retreat from family life. Not because they want to, but because they got all of this on their plate. And they're unwilling and unable sometimes to share their feelings and their worries. That's another thing they didn't train us to do in medical school. In medical school, you're supposed to, I remember this very vividly, because you're trained to not show any shock if anything happened. If a naked person walked through this room, or if I was talking to this lady in the front and she told me that she killed 4 people yesterday and then did blah, 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 blah. You're not supposed to have any facial expression to show shock. You're not supposed to tell her it's good or bad. Initially, we were trained that you have to be this blank face, that you listen and don't render judgment because my opinion can't tell her what to do. And that's hard sometimes to undo. And then you get into residency, and if you're some of the primary care specialists, then you suddenly are supposed to have great empathy for everyone. So here you have spent 4 years plus getting rid of your empathy, and then now all of a sudden you're supposed to be empathetic again. So a lot of this is not the real fault of the physician. It's a kind of, I did this, now I got to do this. As you can see, this conflict, as the years go by, can often lead to moodiness, fatigue, loneliness, and eventually 2 very stressed mates in a couple. So what do you and your spouse expect? In the 1990s, there was a myth going around. They call it the Beaver Cleaver myth. It showed the perfect family, the stay-at-home mom or wife who did it all with her pearls and her hair perfect, and the working father who came in with his suit and never got dirty and was waited on hand and foot, and then perfect children who never had any problems or anything. Well, trying to attain this type of family has led to what they think is called a super couple syndrome. This is trying to create a world that cannot be attained. It is unattainable. And that creates massive stress on the modern family. Now, I think a lot of the families have moved away from this. This was in effect when I graduated from my residency in 1980, so this was definitely my era, and many of you in the room who have hair that's maybe not quite its same color, or it's a little gray or a silver, it was your era too. Do you have this syndrome? Are you trying to create the Beaver-Cleaver perfect model myth? Here's where we are today with the family. Now more than ever, women are overburdened with the responsibilities of home. Now this is not women physicians, this is women as in wives, spouses, with the responsibilities of home and family. And men are trying to struggle to find a more comfortable balance in the family and work. You can see here how on the American Working Mothers, it has increased since 1980 to over 80% now work outside the home. The number of female physicians has continued to increase in the workforce. During the past 30 years, female physicians have increased from 8% of physicians to over 25% and heading well into the 50%. This is going to change the face of the workforce, and it's going to change the face of the American home. But not just female physicians are part of the great stress. Male physicians are having more and more difficulty. Today's younger male physician has an increasing desire to have more hands-on involvement with home responsibilities, including child care. However, studies show that a lot of male physicians are kind of in a 50-50 kind of situation where part of them really want to get involved and part of them really feel the stress to make that extra money because the wife might take off to do the traditional female roles and be at home, and suddenly the financial responsibility is going to be heavier on the male when you have most American families have a dual income. So actually a lot of the male physicians will increase when they have a family. 2 studies are being evaluated where there is developing a concept of the maternal gatekeeper. This is where the female in the house lets the male do chores but gives very specific directions or is very critical of the male's performance and actually will even redo the job. Does that sound familiar anywhere? This, of course, creates more stress on the poor male physician, and it's not limited just to physical things in the home. Today, more than ever, both of the couple are really stressed on the challenge of educating the children, holding together the family unit, managing the cost of the medical care, and all the other things that go on in the face of the shrinking value of the American dollar. Well, what about work? The previous work ethic for most physicians was, if you work hard, you will achieve your goal. This was especially true with male physicians. So when a physician marries and has a child in the family, usually the female takes off and the male usually continues to work. Well, recently, in the past few years, there has been a change where more male physicians are wanting to bond with their children, which is a very good thing. But he is still getting a lot of ridicule by his peers who will imply that he has to choose his career over his family if he expects to advance. This can create quite a bit of stress on the male physician who wants to bond with his family, but yet at the same time doesn't want to lose his job. This will also carry over to female physicians who are pressured not to become pregnant due to absence from work, and we may have to pull extra duty. Or it's a weakness that you're going to have a family. You know, you're in medicine, you're married to medicine, you have to do your job. Do you know that in the late 1980s, 1980, not that long ago really, for some of us in the room, for others you probably weren't born, only 32% of teaching hospitals had maternity leave for female physicians, only 32%. Well, what about your work? There was a survey done of 50 lawyers. Lawyers were as close to the medical profession as they could find. Medicine is in its own category. So they surveyed these lawyers and they said, what do you do after you've had a really, really heavy case burden and you've been really stressed at work? And 46 of the 50 lawyers said, after that, I take some time off. I kind of chill out, take some time off, and recuperate. So then they went and interviewed 100 physicians. And they said, okay, physicians, what do you do when you're exposed to a period of excessive work pressure, hours, grueling, stressed? What do you do? 50% of the 100 said they actually increased the time they spent at work. And that's the way physicians are trained. If you're not doing something or if the work gets harder, you just gear up to the next level and you just keep pushing, you know? So where does all this lead? Maybe it's a question, what do you really value? Let's think about that for a few minutes. I have a list here of some of the priorities in living. You should take this list and take this test, and we'll try to get a copy to you if you want, if you're interested in having this, because I didn't do handouts. I would challenge you to have each of you take it home and take it independently from your spouse. Pick the top 5 and the ones you truly care about and list them in order of the one that's most important to the one that's last. And then share your list with your spouse and see if there are any common areas. This will give you an idea, good or bad, whether you're on the same page or whether you're not on the same page, or maybe where you could head in the future so you could be together. I want you to think about this. This list will change. As you go through life, when you're a young physician, you'll have a different 5 priorities than when you're a middle-aged physician and then when you're an older physician or even a retired physician. But you hopefully will have a spouse with you during part of that time that maybe you could still do the test and see where you are. Consider this thought. There are 24 hours in a day. There are 7 days in a week. That makes 168 hours in a week. The average physician sleeps 49 hours a week, works 60 hours to 80 hours a week, does non-medical activities 8 hours a week, has meals 14 hours a week, I'm not sure about that, sometimes at home, has emergencies 10 hours a week, and has hobbies or exercises 7 hours a week. So the bottom line is there are 20 hours a week left for showering, going to the bathroom, shopping, and running errands, and your family. So if you're really lucky, the average physician might get 6 hours a week alone with their spouse, and they might get 2 to 3 hours a week with their children. So let me ask you this. Out of these top 5 that you just listed, in the past week, how many of those 20 hours did you spend on those top 5, along with showering, toilet, errands, family? So now you can see why, or one reason why, physicians are so fatigued all the time. Often they're too fatigued that they don't even use their off time. They don't even do anything because they're sleeping. Coping. It really should say not coping because that's really the correct term. Physicians and families are suffering. They forgot how to play and have fun. And that's going to get worse because medical times are not too good right now. The Satils have 6 personality drivers that they have identified. And these drivers are what we use to cope with. They drive us to do things. So if you were a being strong driver, you have trouble asking for support with stress. If you're a being perfect driver, you're spending much of your time fussing about your shortcomings in others. If you're a trying hard driver, you have trouble deciding when you've worked hard enough to take a rest. If you have a pleasing other driver, then you tend to have a hard time saying no to others. A lot of people have that one. And if you're a hurrying driver, you're always anxious that there's more to do than there's time to do it. If you're being careful, you're obsessed with what could go wrong while things are going well. Now, many people have a mix of these traits, but usually you'll have maybe one or two that are dominant. Now, these lead to personalities. They develop outcomes. And if you cope with these rigidly, then you will have these outcomes. So if you are very rigid about being strong, you will be lonely and numb, and so forth. If you're very rigid about trying hard, you'll have fatigue and no joy. So you can see how the study has proven that this will play out. This further leads to personalities. And these personalities are what you really hope happens in life. So if your driver is being strong, you really want to be nurtured. If your driver is being perfect, you really want to feel good enough. If your driver is trying hard, you want to feel deserving of rest and happiness. So you can see how these can lead to these things. Now, why do we talk about all this? Because they found that these stresses can lead to physician-spouse, what they call, in this Sotil's book and in Marriage Circle, a type A behavior pattern for marriage. Think closely about yourself and your spouse. Think of the type A personality that is typically labeled as a physician is, oh, they're a type A personality. Perfectionism, high level of hostility, you can see it here, competitive, da-da-da. The type A personality will lead to a type A behavior, which will lead to a type A relationship. So what does a type A behavior lead to? Here's the type A behaviors. Read through them. See if you can think of anyone that it may sound like. I'm sure you'll find some people in this list that you know. Fidgeting, tapping, use of profanity, irregular breathing, da-da-da-da. Then this will lead to a type A personality. But type A personalities and type A behavior and type A individuals are not all bad. Many of our famous inventors, leaders, successful business people, they are all managed. They learn to manage their type A. They can be happy, dynamic, and content. The key is management. So the Sotils put together 8 rules for managing the type A personality and the medical marriage. And these are listed. Number 1, you understand how the effect of your personality is affecting the family. Be aware of your family's feelings and reactions. Number 2, support each other. Don't just blame or shame. Number 3, respect your body. Limit the caffeine and sugar you ingest, as you already have nervous energy, and avoid using alcohol as a sedative. Number 4, learn to relax. Listen to relaxing music. Try standing in a long line without getting upset. Turn off the TV. It's like me. I always go to the, to the wrong one. Talk to your spouse. Number 5, pause now and then and slow down. Do one thing at a time. Take a little break in the day. Call home and leave a message for your spouse. Number 7, Think about other people. What kind of day are the other people having? What are they worried about? And number 8, when possible, be with people who soothe you and don't stir your competitive nature. Now that's fine and good, but how does that relate to marriage? Well, let's look at some of the crises in marriages real quick. Number 1 is adding to the family. This is one of the most stressful as well as happy times in a marriage, and that is the early childbearing and child rearing. Divorce rates usually spike during the toddler years. No matter how in love a couple is, the first months of a new baby can change the focus of the mother from the husband to the child. And then the mother can develop anxiety over the amount of attention the husband is spending with the child instead of the spouse. So there you go, a cycle. Fortunately, as the children grow, so does the depth of the marriage if they can stay together. Extramarital affairs. Whether you get caught or not, an affair will change your marriage, either temporarily or permanently. Some marriage can never repair, while others see this as a sign of a problem, and they will go on to change it and end the need for the affair, and actually that marriage will get stronger. Boredom and staleness. Happiness when romance and passion have died. Couples can only keep the romance there by working on it. And one of that ways is develop a deep friendship in couples. How about money? We're going to have plenty of that coming up with these new guidelines on the Medicare and Medicaid changes. Career change for either spouse, burnout, unexpected job loss, malpractice lawsuits, and you moving. What starts out as a career crisis can turn into a marital crisis with frustration and anger. Lack of money has especially hit the baby boomers selection, who worked to get ahead all this time and put their money away, and then the financial loss in the stock market and the political unrest, and then now they're having to work longer and they're unhappy and all these changes going on. And then unfortunately it's going to get worse, because now we're all going to go from a fee for service to a medical home and an accountable care, and that's going to put stress on us because nobody's going to pay for that in the beginning, and we're going to have to do it. And that's added stress. And lastly is retirement. Now you'd think retirement would be good, but many physicians can't imagine life without medicine. Medicine has been their lifelong mission. Most physicians tend to retire around 40 years after getting their degree from medical school. But there's a delicate balance between continuing to work and being able to continue to work. And some physicians, both physically and mentally, just can't do it that well anymore. And they try to do maybe a step down, like research or teaching, and I have nothing against those. They're very good, but they're less physically sometimes demanding than standing in the office or in the OR for hours. The decision to retire has to be a family decision. So everybody has to get involved and redistribute how they're going to do things and help each other. You have to help your partner be healthier, to stay there and be with you. Otherwise, you're going to be alone. And then you waited all this time to be with your spouse, and suddenly your spouse died on you because they didn't take care of themselves. And then you're by yourself. And that's not very much fun. We're getting close to the end now, and I would like to just throw out these, what we call flavors of medical marriage. There's a wide variety, and I couldn't list all of them here. But there are some scenarios. They're not all the same. Any one of them is not the same as another. You have the physician husband working and the in-home wife caring for the family. And early on, it's a very well balanced because the wife likes to enjoy all the things that the physician brings, and the physician is happy. But the wife becomes involved in her set of things, and the physician becomes involved in his set of things, and the next thing you know, they have their separate friends, their separate activities, and they're going their separate ways. And then the wives sometimes become angry and hurt because the physician doesn't appreciate them. They don't appreciate the sacrifice they've made, the jobs they do. And as midlife approaches, the wife feels cheated and turns into a different person. And this can lead to divorce. And then there's the physician and the wife that works outside of the home. And then there may be some problems there with stress management. Who does what? Who does the laundry? Who does the cleaning? Who does the grocery shopping? Who cuts the grass? You know, it's division of the jobs. I know in our house, everybody has 3 weeks of underwear because we can't get the laundry done all the time. And fortunately, I have a husband that if the house is not dusted, he turns his head for a while. And then there's the physician and the husband. And the husband at first is happy because he stays home and he adapts. But then as years go along, he gets resentment too because he put his career on hold so that the physician wife, spouse, could do her thing. And then all of a sudden, the physician wants to retire and maybe do some traditional home roles with children or grandchildren. And then the husband's spouse finds that he can't get a job because his career he's waited too long. So that puts a lot of stress. And then lastly is the rare bird of the two-physician family. And this is where one physician marries another physician. Only 6% of male physicians marry female physicians, but 48% of female physicians marry male physicians. And these can be very competitive. These are two highly competitive type A people who are suddenly together. So it can be both good and bad. They understand each other exactly, so you can talk about all your medical stuff at home. I remember in our family, our daughter finally said, "Mom, can you stop putting those disgusting medical magazines all through the house and in the bathroom?" You know, you don't realize what the children are seeing because it's our world. Everything was medicine, day and night, you know. Or you could also see that they're too competitive and maybe they compete with each other and one always has to make more money or do something a little better. So they can be either constructive or they can be terrible. So how do you win? Number one, don't lie, shame, blame, or lower stress. Let some things slide. Maybe the 3-week underwear and the not dusting, you know. Nurture both spouse and yourself. Don't work, 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 work. Practice having a little pleasure. Number two, you must share responsibilities, but it may not be 50-50. You might have to live with 20-80 or 70-30 or maybe 10-90, okay? Number three, pay attention to the role you're setting for your children. Be both parent and be a playmate sometimes, because let the children see there's more to life than just work, 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 and fight, fight, fight. Number four, don't be a workaholic. Create islands of time to do simple things. Watch for burnout and be honest about talking about it. Number five, seek professional help if you need it, either as an individual or as a couple. Number six, set aside a date night for to be alone with your spouse, or maybe something once a month, once a week, whatever. Apologize to your spouse. Let them know you appreciate them. And number seven, support each other to find that new balance. Speak freely. Go on vacations. Learn to talk. In other words, these are my words here. Trust each other, talk to each other, listen, understand, forgive, and love.